What's going on, everybody? David here. So the Democrats have a bill. So they put together a bill. It's 1,800 pages. It's a $3 trillion bill. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to see some of the key points. I'm going to talk mainly about the stimulus checks, but we will talk about some of the other things as well. But first off, on this channel, we talk about personal finance for travelers. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell notification so you can get future updates on my videos. So I want to say this before we take a look at some of the key points of the bill. This is just a bill that's in the House right now. So it needs to be voted on in the House. Once they vote on it in the House, then they will send it over to the Senate, and then the Senate will vote on it. Now, the Senate can make changes if they want to make changes and then vote on a different bill. Then it will go back to the House so the House can see what the changes are and then make a vote on it. So this is the beginning stages. So there's nothing has been approved. So the stuff that I'm going to talk about right now, it's still in the beginning stages, but it's important for you to know that way. If it goes to the Senate and some of the things have been taken out, then you're going to realize, okay, they didn't want this. They didn't want that. They didn't want this amount for the stimulus check. They wanted less, or they didn't want the stimulus check at all. So it's important to kind of follow it through the whole process. That's why it's important for you guys to subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to keep giving you guys all these updates when it comes to, okay, this is the bill that the House has. This is the bill that the Senate wants. And then we'll just work it out. And then it goes to the president, and then the president has to sign off on it. So I want to show you guys this. Let's go over to the website real quick. So we're looking at CNBC. And I'm not going to go over the whole bill. The bill is 1,800 pages, so it's easier just to go and look at a news article and pull up some of the key points. Now, I'm going to focus mainly on the stimulus check, but I do want to touch on a few of these key points here, because right now we'll skip the stimulus check, and then we're just going to talk about some of the other stuff. So nearly $1 trillion in state and local government. That's what they want to spend, which I'm telling you, I think that's a good thing. We'll see where it goes when it comes to the Senate. The Senate and the president have already said that they're on board for some funding for state and local government. They just don't want them to use this funding. They want them to use the funding for coronavirus related stuff. They don't want them to use it for other things like bills that, debt that they had prior to this that have nothing to do with coronavirus. So, $1 trillion. We'll see if that is a good amount when it comes to the Senate. The Senate might say, oh, that's too much or what have you. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And the second thing is the stimulus checks. But like I said, I'm going to skip down and then we'll come back to that. They also want $200 billion for hazard pay for essential workers. So they want to stick with this hero fund or some type of funding for essential workers, which I think is good. And I'm going to go over some of this stuff. I'll go over it in greater detail in later videos. But I want to get the stimulus check stuff out because that's what everybody really wants to know about. But I think this hazardous pay would also be something that a lot of people will be interested in, because there's a lot of essential workers out there right now that are working, and they're going to want to know how much they could get out of this whole situation. $75 billion for coronavirus testing. So they are focused on the testing, the contact tracing. They want to really start testing more and more people. That way we'll have more confidence, because that's what it's going to come down to. Being confident to go back to work, being confident to get out there as a consumer and go to restaurants and nightclubs and all that stuff. You have to be confident. So the way that you make people confident is you see that there's testing out there, and there are not that many new people that are contracting the virus. And once we start seeing that, I think people will be a little more open to doing things and normal activities and going to Disneyland and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's move on here. Now, I put a highlight on these in yellow, and then I put a highlight on these in more of a, pinkish color. These are the things in the pinkish color. These are the things that I don't think it's gonna pass the Senate. I think the Senate is gonna make some real major changes when it comes to these. So one of the things is $600. So the $600 per week, the unemployment, they want to extend that. That will end July 31st. So at the end of July, that's when this ends. So they want to extend it further. I think the Republicans, at least on the Senate side, are not going to want to go for this. The focus is getting people back to work. So if you're continuing to extend unemployment, then that's going to hurt that process, right? A lot of people are not going to want to go back to work, or they might choose not to go back to work because they can stay on unemployment. So I know the way that they set it up is if your employer calls you back and then you refuse to come back to work, then they can cancel your unemployment. But that's a matter of them getting a hold of you and stuff. So that's a whole different situation. But extending that unemployment, I think, is going to be a real tough fight. The only way I can see that happening is if our numbers just continue to increase, which might possibly happen in May. If they increase even higher as far as unemployment, then maybe that's something that they'll have to really think about, because the numbers are just growing and growing and growing. So that's the only way that I can see that survives. $175 billion in rent and mortgage utility assistance. So this, we'll have to see what they do with this. This could be something that could potentially pass, but it's going to depend on how they negotiate that. And like I said, some of this stuff I'll get in greater detail, and I'll have all the facts for you, but I can't do that in one video. So we want to focus mainly on stimulus checks. So let's move through some of these other things here. So the Affordable Care Act, subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. So people who were working, lost their job, and they no longer have health coverage, allowing them to have a special subsidy to get the Affordable Care Act. The problem with that is you have Republicans that are adamantly against the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. So that's going to be a hard sell. So the next thing here is more money for the SNAP program. That's always going to be a tough sell. I don't see a lot of Republicans being on board when it comes to that. So I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Okay, and here, $10 billion for emergency disaster assistance. This might go somewhere. This grant might actually go somewhere. It is for small business, so I think there's a good possibility that will go somewhere. But I put it. I'm not exactly sure. I need to look into it a little bit more to kind of know what's going on and give you a better educated opinion when it comes to that. So the next thing here, make voting easier as far as vote by mail. Now, we already know Trump he's not really for that. He's talked against it. So that might be something that gets chopped off the bill. So we'll have to see how they handle it. And then the last thing here is the U.S. Postal Service. So the funding for the U.S. Postal Service. Trump has already said that he wants, if that's going to happen, if they're going to give the Postal Service more funding, then they have to raise fees on companies like Amazon. So that is that. Now, let's get back up to the stimulus check. So stimulus check, $1,200. So that's what they're saying. So it's going to be pretty much just like the last stimulus checks. It'll be $1,200. The major difference is the dependents. So it's going to be $1,200 per person. And then for dependents, it's going to be $1,200 per person. So per dependent. So you could potentially get, and they say here, $6,000. So it goes up to 3 dependents. So you can get $1,200 for you, $1,200 for your spouse, $1,200 for one kid, $1,200 for another kid, $1,200 for another kid. So that's pretty much the way they're looking at it. So a family of 5, you're going to get $6,000, which I think it's good. I mean, if you have dependents, that's where you make out when it comes to this whole setup. However, it's $1,200 again. So how is that going to play? Because this is your proposal. You're proposing $1,200. Now, this could be a really masterful play by the Democrats, or it could be a disaster, because you set the bar at $1,200. The last time it was $1,200, I think most people would say $1,200 it's good, but it's not enough for a month. Okay, you can't pay your mortgage, your rent, you can buy food and everything with $1,200. So I think if it goes any lower than that, I think people will be really, really upset. And so that's one of those things where it could be a good play. The fact that you put it at $1,200 is probably going to stay at $1,200. So we're not seeing anything. The Democrats aren't saying anything about the monthly payments or anything like that. Just like I said, I think one more check is probably the way that they're going to go about it. And then they'll look at it 2-3 months down the road. And if they need to do some more relief, then they'll put maybe another $1,200 in there at that point. I'm thinking the fact that they put it at $1,200, they've already negotiated this out with the White House and probably have talked to some of the senators as well. So it's interesting that it's only $1,200. And I say only $1,200 is, $1,200 is $1,200. But the fact that they didn't go a little bit higher to negotiate down is interesting. Maybe they could have started at $1,500 and then end up with $1,200. But yeah, that's what we have here. So I want to know what you guys think, though. You think $1,200 is enough? Do you think it's that there should have been more, maybe 2,000, or at least should the Democrats have gone higher and then tried to work their way down? Let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.